God, it's so warm in my house. It's not this. It might be this. It is nighttime outside. My family has already gone to bed. I myself would like to go to bed. Unfortunately, I'm making myself stick to a regular schedule, or else there is no other structure in my life right now. Hopefully, I will get to finish my drink by the time I'm done recording. Couple things before I get started. My hair is red now, and between the last couple of videos and now, I turned 21, so I'm gonna be drinking. This week, I watched Hell House, LLC. A couple of content warnings. There's a handful of scenes where there are a lot of flashing lights. About 35 minutes in, there is a still photograph of a suicide, and at about 38 minutes in, there's just this really gross eye thing that I didn't like. Drinking game. The rules are in the description below. I don't feel like running through them right now, but if you want to reference them at any point, you know where to find them. The movie starts with a newscast, October 8th, 2009 in Abaddon, New York, at the Abaddon Hotel. The opening night of Hell House with multiple fatalities. The video shot by a tour goer was uploaded to YouTube, blah blah blah. There's a 911 call from somebody going through the haunted house that got leaked. There's this photojournalist who decides that he's going to break into the Abaddon Hotel after the fact because they weren't letting anybody in. And he takes pictures of everything and he's like, I didn't want to go in the basement. I was not going to go in the basement, but I stood at the top of the stairs and I took pictures down the stairwell. In the basement, it's where everything went down. There's bloody handprints. What I thought was really cool in this scene, they line up his photographs with the YouTube video that we saw at the beginning, and I really like the way that they did that. The main group of 5 people, 4 guys and 1 girl. Alex and Sarah are an item. She was completely unheard from since that night, and then she shows up and gives an exclusive interview to this documentary film crew. They ask her how she's been doing since the event, whatever, and she's like, I'm in a better place now. So she's dead, right? Paul and Tony liked to record everything. Sarah has the tapes in her bag. She gives them to the film crew and says, yeah, let's just sit here and watch through the trauma I experienced. That makes sense. They're walking around the house. They go up to the attic. There's this weird chain that's hanging from the ceiling for no real reason. They have walkie-talkies so they can keep in touch with one another at any part of the house, right? They're walking through the house and they're recording this whole thing, and the footage actually rewinds, pauses, and kind of zooms in to show a shadow figure standing in a doorway in one of the rooms that the people in the scene didn't notice. I actually really like that they draw attention to it. Also, Paul is really horny. He's doing this weird confession cam. He's literally just laying in his own bed talking to the camera about how he wishes he had a girlfriend or something. Paul perfectly frames the scene for a jump scare. There's a whole bunch of other stuff. They're hiring some local actors to be in the haunted house. One of them is this girl who seems to be pretty young. Paul is a creep, constantly hitting on her and then asking her how old she is. You know what, I'm gonna go ahead and drink for that. This girl, Melissa, is talking about the history of the hotel, and Alex is trying to quickly shut down the conversation because he, I guess, doesn't want his friends to know that the hotel is allegedly haunted. Good luck with that, Alex. And that's about when you see the picture of the former owner's suicide. Andrew Tully built the hotel and he was allegedly a cult leader. There's this ongoing thing with the dummies. They don't move unless you move them. They just stare straight forward because they are dummies. There's more that happens, but I'm not going to talk about it right now. There's a jump scare with Paul and his camera and one of the dummies, and he thinks it's Tony. Whatever, I'm not going to explain it, but there's a jump scare and Paul freaks out reasonably and runs away, except he's holding the camera in order for it to look like like deadite vision from Evil Dead. That's not how someone would hold a camera when they're running for their life. A little bit later, they're trying to shoot a commercial so that they can make money. There's like, you know, a Mary statue out in the garden, which I was raised Catholic. Catholics think Mary is pretty neat. Sarah wanders off when they're trying to shoot this commercial, and she's just like staring at this statue for seemingly no reason. It's the next scene. One of the guys like puts on like a head cam, and he does like a little walkthrough so that they can like make sure that everything is in order. That scene is basically nothing but strobe lights. So Paul's going through with the head cam, they try to do a jump scare that doesn't work because there's too many strobe lights, and then Paul throws up because of the jump scare that I couldn't see. Later, Paul wakes up to find the clown from earlier standing at the bottom of the stairs. Mac also wakes up, and then Paul is carrying the camera, and he's following Mac as they go back down to the basement, and then they find Sarah just Blair Witching up against the wall, and she's like, Alex didn't know. And then she wakes up. They turn around to go back upstairs, and oops, the mannequin's gone. Once again, Paul's confession cam is perfectly framed for a jump scare, and lo and behold, there's a girl who looks quite disheveled, just sitting up against the wall. And he freaks out, understandably, and hides under the covers with the camera. Honestly, I'm getting a little tired of hearing Paul's breathing. He, like, you know, pulls back the covers to check, and the girls, like, move to get up, and then he hides again, and then he checks, and then there's a jump scare, because of course there is. There appears to be some scary music. Bathtub, and a baby doll, and for some reason there's, like, scary music. I don't know what it is with found footage movies randomly including scary music. And then there's, like, a really long camera glitch because paranormal stuff is happening. Tony goes into Paul's room, I guess in the morning, and finds the camera sitting on Paul's bed, and the light is on, and Paul is nowhere to be found. Everybody's super mad at him. Tony is now the one carrying the camera around. He's like, well, have you tried calling him? Alex is like, no. And so they call him, and all they hear is just this tortured screaming. So I don't know that it was actually Paul. Paul shows up out of nowhere, totally catatonic, won't say anything, won't do anything, he just kind of exists blankly. Tony is, understandably, freaking out, and he quits, because Tony is the only one with common sense. And so Tony and Mac have this soft boy moment out in a field with the camera for some reason. Mac insists that they can't leave. It would appear that Alex bought the hotel. Yikes. There's a lot of things that happen. There's also rediscovered footage from another tour goer. People are trying to leave, but there's like a bunch of Michael Myers looking ghouls who just appear out of nowhere, and the back door that's supposed to be like the exit won't open. The upstairs door down to the basement slams closed in Mac's face. Upstairs in the attic, Alex is being strangled to death by that chain. There's a whole bunch of black hooded cult members that just keep appearing out of nowhere because they're ghosts, I guess, and that's what ghosts be doing. And the documentary crew's like, wait, so nothing happened to you, Sarah, between the basement and the front door? You were just able to leave? And she's like, yeah, I guess. And I'm like, oh, so she's like dead. They're doing this interview in another hotel, and she's like, I'm just gonna go lay down for a bit. My room is 2C. They're like, yeah, sure, we're gonna go, check out the Abaddon. And on their way out, the girl who's like doing the documentary, her name's Diana, by the way. And she tells the woman at the front desk, hey, if a woman named Sarah Havel comes asking for me, just tell her we'll be back in like an hour or something. And the woman's like, there is no Sarah Havel staying in this hotel. And Diana's like, well, no, that can't be right. She's in room 2C. And the woman's just like, we don't have letters in our room numbers. I wonder what hotel Sarah's staying in. Mitchell is the guy scrubbing through all the footage. While Diana and the other guy break into the Abaddon, Mitchell stays behind and continues watching the footage where Sarah presumably picks up a camera off the ground and is walking toward the front door, where she encounters Paul. So she drops the camera to give him a big old hug, and then Paul bashes her head in with the camera. The camera's on the ground and it's like facing her, and she's laying there dying, and then her body gets like dragged out of frame by something that's like growling. I don't know. Paul then picks up a shard of glass and he cuts his own throat. The film crew walks into the Abaddon, and there's like a quick pan of somebody standing in the kitchen that they don't notice. Diana is way too excited. She's just like walking around like she's in Disneyland. And then Mitchell calls her, presumably to say, by the way, Sarah is dead. She been dead. Diana elects to ignore Mitchell's phone call because there's no way it could possibly be more important than exploring an abandoned hotel where several people were recently murdered. I was going to drink for that because I was thinking that nobody would ever do that, but on the contrary, there are probably people who would. They go upstairs and they find that room 2C is in fact in the Abaddon, and then they open the door, they find Sarah sitting there facing the window. Turns and we see bloody cheek ghost Sarah instead of normal ghost Sarah. The door closes behind Diana and what's-his-face. It turns out that Sarah has some cult ghost friends now, which is nice. I like that for her. Basically, the moral of the story is don't ignore your friends' phone calls. I really enjoyed this movie. The way that they structured and edited the footage was really, really awesome. I don't think there's any sequel bait there to drink for, but they still managed to make 2 sequels. I absolutely adore Hell House. I guess that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. God, it's so warm in my house. It's not this. It might be this. Cheers.
And I sang dab, dab, double, 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 evil, 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 evil songs. Hell, you know that's how I get along. The world is full of tragedy, so how can it be wrong? Singing dab, 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 double, double, evil, evil songs.